Hello, welcome to our video for Chapter 10, Lesson 4, which is dividing by renaming. Now, this strategy is not a strategy I would recommend using on paper. It is a good mental math strategy. So if you're out shopping and you are trying to figure out how much you need to spend on a certain amount of products, then it might be a good strategy to use. It is a little complicated to understand at first, which again is why I wouldn't use it on paper. I would use a different strategy on paper, and this would just be for mental math. But I'm going to give you a few examples and see what you think. So if we wanted to divide 90 by 5, we could rename 90. So that's why it's called dividing by renaming. So I can rename 90 as 40 plus 50. That's what that equals 90. And now I can do 40 divided by 5 plus 50 divided by 5. So I'm going to divide the first number by 5 and the second number by 5, and I'm going to add the answers together. Okay, so 40 divided by 5 is 8, and 50 divided by 5 is 10, and when we add those together, we get 18. So 90 divided by 5 is 18. So it is a bit complicated. It's not the method I would use for figuring things out on paper, but it would be something I would use in real life for mental math. Let me show you another example. 64 divided by 4. So the first thing you need to do is figure out, well, what two numbers can I add together to make 64? That would be easier to divide by 4 in my head. So I could do 40 plus 24. That makes 64. So we're going to divide 40 by 4, and we're going to add it to 24 divided by 4. So we're taking this number and dividing by 4, taking this number and dividing by 4, and we're going to add those together. So 40 divided by 4 is 10, and 24 divided by 4 is 6. So when we add those together, we get 16. So that's what our answer is. Sometimes it can be a little more tricky, especially if there's remainders. So I'm going to show you one example with a remainder. So let's say we have 75 divided by 6. Okay, so I'm going to start by figuring out, okay, what two numbers can I add together to make 75, but will be easier for me to do in my head. So I'm going to pick 60 plus 15. That makes 75. All right, so I'm going to go 60 divided by 6 plus 15 divided by 6. So see, we took the first one that we have, and we're going to divide that by 6. And then the second number, and we're going to divide that by 6. And we'll add the answers together. So 60 divided by 6 is 10. That one was easy. 15 divided by 6 is not an exact answer, okay? Because if we're doing our 6 times tables, well, 6 times 1 is 6, 6 times 2 is 12, 6 times 3 is 18. So you can't multiply anything by 6 to get 15. So what you have to do is think, okay, how close can I get to 15 without going over? So 6 times 2 is 12. So that means 12 divided by 6 is 2. And then what's left over? Well, if that's 12, then I've got 13, 14, and 15. So there's 3 left over. So it's a remainder of 3. So 10 plus 2 is 12 with a remainder of 3. So that is our answer for that one. And that's the reason why it's not something I would do on paper. It is a great strategy for out and about in the real world when you don't have paper to use. But when it comes to more complicated ones like this, it is a little bit tricky. Still good for those who are good at mental math or want to practice their mental math. It's a good strategy for that to help you learn about mental math skills. I'll be doing another video on a faster division strategy, the old-fashioned long division, soon.